It was one of those perfect Saturday mornings, the sun casting a golden hue on everything it touched, the scent of freshly cut grass hanging in the air like a flag of suburban pride. I was out front, mowing the lawn with my old but faithful push mower, Betsy. My name's Marcus. I like my routines slow and simple, black coffee, quiet weekends, and the comfort of predictability. Inside the house, my wife Lena was probably humming to Sam Cooke or Otis Redding while folding laundry. Out on the driveway, our two kids, Ethan 10 and Zoe 7, were fully engrossed in a sidewalk chalk battle that looked like a competition for the Louvre. It was the kind of morning you'd bottle up if you could, until it wasn't. Midway through the mowing, I felt a shadow fall across me, expecting it to be Mr. Torres from next door, maybe asking to borrow a tool. I looked up and froze. It wasn't a neighbor. It was a cop. Stocky, rigid, and wrapped in a too-tight uniform that looked like it was seconds from surrendering. Her hair was yanked back so taut. Her face looked permanently surprised, and behind mirrored sunglasses was a mouth set in a flat line of disapproval. She introduced herself in a tone that could file wood. Officer Brenda Clean. Her voice was harsh, nasal, and mechanical, like a blender full of gravel. "You need to stop immediately," she barked. I shut off Betsy. The engine died, leaving only the sound of birdsong and the distant giggles of chalk-dueling children. "Is there a problem, officer?" I asked, reading her name tag. She stepped in too close. I caught a whiff of stale coffee and cheap lavender. "We've received complaints," she said, puffing out her chest. "Your lawn work is provocative." I stared at her. Provocative. The yard was nothing fancy, just grass and some stubborn dandelions. "What exactly is the complaint?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. She stiffened. "The aggressive mowing lines. The noise. Your presence is making some of our more established residents feel uncomfortable." There it was. It wasn't the mowing or the noise, it was me. A black man on his own property, maintaining his lawn at 10:30 in the morning. I wasn't just trimming grass. Apparently, I was disturbing the natural order of this carefully curated suburb. Never mind that we'd lived here 6 years. Some folks still saw us as outsiders. "Officer Clean," I said, calm despite the burn rising in my chest, "I'm on my property doing yard work. If there's an ordinance against mowing patterns, feel free to show me." My kids had paused their game, now standing near the porch with worried eyes. Lena stood behind the screen door, tense, her hands clenched. Clean's hand drifted to her belt. "Are you questioning my authority?" she said, voice rising. "Your attitude is causing a disturbance." I blinked, stunned. "You're on my lawn accusing me of being provocative and now calling my attitude a threat?" Her face turned crimson. "That's it," she shouted, grabbing my arm. "You're under arrest for disorderly conduct and resisting." Resisting? I hadn't even moved. But I didn't resist. I knew better. My children were watching, already wide-eyed and afraid. Lena gasped. Curtains shifted across the street. Clean twisted my arm behind my back and snapped on the cuffs with an unnecessary force that would echo in my bones for days. She marched me to her cruiser, shoved me inside, and leaned close enough for me to feel her breath. "You think you're clever?" she whispered. "I've got friends in high places. Judge Harlan Voss. You'll learn your place." But something shifted in me then. Her threat didn't scare me. It hardened me. This wasn't law enforcement. It was harassment, pure and simple. 3 hours later, my brother-in-law, Captain Greg Hayes, came barreling into the precinct like a storm in a suit. He'd seen the video Lena had shakily recorded from the doorway, Clean manhandling me while I stood motionless. Her incident report read like a work of fiction. Greg took one look and had me released with no charges. Back home, Zoe wouldn't let go of my waist, and Ethan asked why Officer Clean thought our grass was angry. I had no answer that wouldn't steal something from his innocence. That night, Lena and I sat on the couch long after the kids were asleep. We knew this wasn't just one bad cop. It was bigger, rooted, systemic. Something deep and ugly that thought it could choke us quietly. But I'd had enough. Clean didn't back down. Her patrol car began showing up more often, sometimes just idling by our driveway. We got citations for trash bins left out too long, for Lena's sunflowers supposedly blocking visibility. Petty. Targeted. She was making it clear. She wasn't done. Some neighbors, Mr. Torres, Mrs. Callahan, offered quiet support. They said the right things, looked genuinely sorry. But even they admitted. Officer Clean had a reputation, and no one wanted to be next in her sights. But me? I was done being quiet. She had a reputation, feared more than respected. A self-appointed guardian of the neighborhood with an inflated sense of authority. Officer Brenda Clean, a name whispered with unease, was said to live nearby, ever watchful, enforcing her personal interpretation of the community's standards. Greg, my neighbor and occasional confidant, warned me early on. Her ties to Judge Voss, a rigid law and order type, gave her a dangerous level of confidence. Even when reprimanded by her superiors, she didn't back down. She dug in deeper. But I wasn't the type to yell or retaliate emotionally. I'm an engineer by trade, someone who solves layered problems with precision. So I fought with method. I installed high-definition surveillance, wore a discreet body cam, and documented every encounter. Digging into her history, I found a transfer to the Harmony Division after prior patrol issues. Her connection to Voss wasn't formal influence, but strong enough to make her feel shielded. I knew if I was going to challenge her, I needed undeniable proof. Then came the moment that pushed everything over the edge. Clean trespassed onto our property and hacked down the sunflowers Lena cherished, calling them a hazard. My wife cried over the wreckage, and our son Ethan overheard something chilling. Clean, under her breath, muttered, "This will teach their kind about proper gardening." Just hours later, Child Protective Services showed up, an anonymous tip accusing us of neglect. Baseless. Our home was clean, our kids healthy and loved. It wasn't concern, it was a calculated strike. That's when I knew. This wasn't just petty harassment. It was war. I compiled everything. Photos of the destroyed flowers. Lena's video. Ethan's shaken testimony. Statements from neighbors. Mr. Torres angrily recounted her history of intimidation. Mrs. Callahan spoke of a bizarre campaign against her for feeding squirrels. I met with Greg again, and he pointed me in the direction of internal affairs, city council, and a civil rights lawyer. That lawyer, Leonard Tate, drafted a sharp, uncompromising letter to the city. It accused Clean of racially motivated abuse and threatened legal action. Still, I didn't stop. I showed up at a local community meeting, where she went off about aesthetic violations. I asked direct questions about what residents could do when officials go too far. She flinched. Others joined in, sharing similar run-ins with her. Slowly, people began connecting the dots. Then, the moment of clarity. A suspicious van parked near our home. My cameras captured it all. Clean inside, directing a man as he distributed fabricated citations, including one for our mailbox paint being the wrong shade of green. It was amateurish and desperate. But it was also the final piece. We added the footage to our complaint. I personally delivered a 70-page report to Internal Affairs and sent copies to the City Council and Mayor's office. Councilwoman Rivera responded swiftly, disturbed by what she saw. She promised to act. The Mayor's office, shaken by the threat of legal fallout, hinted at a settlement. And just like that, Clean disappeared from our streets. Someone had pulled the leash. Still, I didn't relax. I kept everything above reproach. My lawn flawless. My behavior impeccable. 2 months later, I was summoned to Internal Affairs. Captains Morrow and Chun went over every detail, focusing especially on the van incident and Ethan's statement. The anonymous CPS call, they said, was the nail in the coffin. At her disciplinary hearing, Clean refused to take responsibility. She blamed me, spun tales, but no one bought it. Faced with termination, she resigned. Her career done. The city issued a formal apology, compensated us for the distress, and implemented new oversight measures for the Harmony Division. Even Judge Voss, once her quiet protector, stepped back, his own reputation tarnished by proximity. And just like that, peace returned. Lena's new sunflowers reached proudly toward the sun. Ethan and Zoe played outside freely again, no longer watching over their shoulders. They learned something valuable. That power isn't always loud, and justice, when built with care and patience, always arrives. Clean's downfall wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, deliberate. Her own arrogance her undoing. I didn't need to shout or fight dirty. I just needed the truth. One piece at a time.